In this video we shall begin the actual winemaking, but before we put anything in our barrel we need to make sure it's properly cleaned. First step is to check that it looks relatively clean. Don't use any chemicals because the wine box comes with a chemical we can use to disinfect the barrel. So you will find this small disinfecting bag and you mix it with 2 liters of cool water. And now that we have our disinfecting mixture, we just pour it into the barrel. Before you continue, just remember that when we're finished disinfecting the barrel, do not throw away this disinfecting substance. We are going to need it later to disinfect other stuff. But now that we have our liquid in the barrel, you just close it, make sure it's secure, block the hole on the lid and stir. Little bit more just in case. And now we just wait few minutes the substance to affect. Disinfecting substance has now affected for about 10 minutes, so we just carefully remove the lid and pour it back to the pot. Here we go. The lid is sometimes really tight, you have to be careful removing it. There we go. And now just pour everything back to the pot. And because you might wanna use your pot for something else like making food or such, we again store it in a bottle. And finally, take the barrel and the lid and rinse them really carefully. The barrel and the lid is now rinsed carefully, and now that we have a clean barrel we can actually put something inside it. And we begin by liquefying all 8 kilos of sugar. And we do that by first boiling about 7 liters of water, pour them into the barrel and mix the sugar. You could use just hot water, but it's much cleaner if you boil the water, so that's what we are gonna do. Take some pots and pans and take the time to boil the water. Now that we have our first 3 liters water, we can actually begin adding the sugar. Just make sure that you have something clean to stir it up. It's liquefying nicely. Just add the sugar at any pace you feel like. It's almost finished. I'm now going to add final pots of water and rest of the sugar to the barrel. Here we go. In between, I already add 4 kilos of sugar, and now I'm just gonna add final 4. All the sugar is now in the barrel. We just stir a little bit, and after that we can continue to the next phase. That's it, liquefying sugar done. Let's proceed. Our next phase is to find citric acid from our wine box, also the most important bag, concentrated berries, and also it contains this, it's kind of a tea bag. I have no idea what it's called in English, but what you do, you basically put those concentrated berries here and this one to the wine barrel. First thing to do is to open this citric acid and just pour it in your wine. Actually, you are also supposed to stir that little bit after, so I'm just gonna do that. This huge amount of sugar does not completely liquefy, so you have to stir it once in a while. Citric acid is now stirred, and we continue adding these berries. Just open the bag ready and open this one. I'm going to use scissors for this just in case, don't want it all over my carpet. We just put this back on top. And switch it around. It also comes with this string. I almost didn't know this. You use this string to close this back as tight as you can. And after it's closed, you just drop it into barrel. Now that berries are in the barrel, the next phase is to fill up the barrel up to the 25 liter mark, so that total amount of liquid is 25 liter. I'm now going to change the scenery to do that. So now the barrel is filled up all the way to the 25 liters, total amount of liquid 25 liters. Next phase is to go back to the wine box and find a substance called pectolase. We open it and pour it to the glass. Should probably stir it with something and pour it straight to the wine. Well, it's not yet wine, but you know what I mean. Now, before we continue, it's crucial that the water in your barrel is not too warm. If it's too warm, it's going to damage the yeast. and that's really something we do not want. The correct optimum temperature is between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius. If it's more than 30, that's risky. If it's less than 20, then it just takes a little bit longer before your wine starts cooking. So if you have a thermometer, that's good, but you don't really need it. You can just touch the water, and if it feels a little bit cool, it's okay. And we can finally add this yeast, the engine of the winemaking. It's quite a big bag. Just carefully pour it in, or any ways you like. This is just so enjoyable. I like to take my time with this. What we could have done before adding the yeast is to take measurement from sugary concentration of the wine, but well, we can do it even after we have add the yeast. So now we are going to need this weight meter, or whatever it's called. We take it out from the box and just set it here floating. Should have not add yeast, it's difficult to see. Okay, it's about 110, which means that we have relatively high sugary concentration. It also means that our sugar is not at the bottom of the barrel, it has actually liquefied, which is good. Just, yes, you should really do this before adding yeast, because it's not really clean. The last thing to do right now is just to finally close the lid. Close it really tight, really carefully. Put some water to the water block, like this, and just press the water plug in its place. Here we go. And next thing, what happens within next 24 hours is that the yeast, which is kind of the engine of winemaking, begins to consume sugar and produce alcohol and carbon dioxide. The reason why this water block is so important is that it prevents any air from getting to the wine. We do not want any air to the wine, because if the yeast gets any air, it begins producing vinegar, and we really do not want vinegar in our wine. This is pretty much all we can do now, and we shall continue in the next video.